Hi, my name is Morley and welcome to my shop. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of different methods how I trim up edge banding. So this is a side to a box. I'm going to be putting inside another box, inside a cabinet, and I just need to trim this back, and what I'm looking for is to leave it just a few thousandths over, and then I'll card scrape it, and then there's more prep work to do on this, sanding and etc. Here's one method I like to use. So an auxiliary fence that hovers above the blade, and so the blade is set just below that, and the outside face of this is perfectly or a few thousandths offset from the outside of the curve of the blade. There's a few things you got to check. One is this square, this fence square relative to the table itself. It can be a little hair off, but if it's a lot, that might start digging into your actual panel. And the way you adjust that is a couple of white nubs on the fence itself that will kind of twist this back and forth. And the second thing is a zero clearance throat plate, or here I just put a piece of scrap plywood down, and that's just going to help it from not blowing out or ripping out as the blade's rotating around. I do have quite a bit of blade exposed. I find, and my blade may just be getting dull, I find that the higher the blade is for this, I get less burn instead of me just having barely having the teeth sticking out. And I'm putting a little bit of lateral pressure on here too, which is not really designed for. It can tend to burn up on you. So this works pretty well. Incredibly safe to do. As I run this through, my hands are nowhere near that blade as I go through. I did have to take the riving knife off, but in this application that's okay. The only thing you need to watch out for, every now and then the drop off will get built up in here and may shoot a piece back once in a while. So with this on, which this is a part of my L fence that my buddy makes, Ben Brunick, chalkstone woodworking. I just took that off to use it. And so I'm just going to ride this now up against and make that cut. I'll bring the camera a little bit closer so you can see. Okay, so that was one of the methods I like to use, and this is probably the one I go to most. I have several shapers, and typically they're just set up for one thing. And so this is set up for flush trimming. Now, you don't have to have a shaper or a power feeder. It's definitely a luxury to have that. And when I'm doing a lot of this, this really helps me out. I can also climb cut with the power feeder in a very safe manner, and it gives me a much better cut, less tear out. It gets less grabby. Now, this same method can be used on a router table. All that's happening here is I have basically, it's almost like a rabbiting bit, but it's just a big straight bit inside inside my collet here, and the very top of that bit is pretty much level to this piece of plywood, if not just below it about 5 thousandths of an inch. So a piece of paper is about 4 thousandths, and that way it leaves just a little bit of an edge so I can scrape it back later on. You would do the same thing. You would have this on your router table, and that's how I used to do it, and it worked just fine. And my power feeder with my hands. But this is a really nice method. I would climb cut it also on there. You just have to be very safe depending on how big of a cut you're taking. In this case, it's an 1/8 inch by an 1/8 inch, or an 1/8 inch by a 1/16 that's coming off. That's not going to run away on you. So again, I have my panel. I keep this pretty narrow so that I can saddle it. I can do both edge banding on it and send it through. If the part is smaller than this piece, then I'll just edge band one edge, trim it up, and then do the other edge. So again, this is the method I tend to use most often. I really like it. And you don't have to have a shaper. So I'm going to bring the camera up close so you can kind of see what's happening here. and you can do this just on any router table. It's pretty much the same deal. This is just a big router table with a power feeder. Okay, hopefully that's a nice shot up close so you can see what's happening here. Essentially, my plywood edge band is overhanging, and it's going to go down in this little trough here. So as it goes through, the bit is set just below this surface. This is just a zero clearance, and my power feeder is cambered or tilted a little inwards, so it's pushing my piece up against that fence. So as it comes through, it's going to trim that down nicely. You could do this on a router table, like I said, and that's how I used to do it before the power feeder. So let's see. Okay, so that's a couple of methods that I like to use. Hope you found this video useful. Now, I will do a video when I come upon it. Like I said, these videos, how I'm approaching these, it's not a build series, it's me making furniture as a custom furniture maker, and I'm going to stop and try to document some of that in a longer format. Because Instagram, I love Instagram, but it's really not for education anymore. And so hopefully YouTube is. And I know some people will say the videos are too long and they're going to be cut down, but I'm going to share the information that I think is important, and I'm not going to trim it down to make some algorithm or whatever happy. I'm a custom furniture maker that wants to share. I'm also a teacher, so hopefully you find this useful. When I do start getting to the point where I need to trim the edge banding, the little horns that hang over on the end, I'll be sure to share that too. Thanks for watching.